to be wealthy? Do you want to be in control of your finances? Do you feel like you mostly get financial advice from people who are trying to sell you a bank's products? If your answer is yes to any of these questions, then stay tuned because you are at the right place. Welcome to Money Convos, a club committed to helping people achieve financial freedom by providing education and guidance on personal finance and investments. We have a group of experts who share their knowledge and give practical advice with no strings attached. At Money mature conversations about wealth, how to create it, grow it, and protect it. We share our experience and encourage our audience to share theirs and ask questions. Join us every Thursday on Clubhouse at 7 p.m. GMT. We also have book discussions that bring out practical lessons. So far, we have read Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, The Richest Man in Babylon, and The Millionaire Next Door. Most importantly, we have one-on-one financial coaching sessions where we guide individuals through setting financial goals, retirement planning, budgeting, investments, risk management, and so many more areas. The goal is to get you to financial independence from whatever income level you're at. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Clubhouse. The handle is at Money Convos GH, or send us an email at moneyconvosgh@gmail.com so we get you started on your journey to financial freedom. Now that you're all caught up, let's head into our next conversation.
Okay, hi Jennifer, how you doing?
Hi, Elikem. I'm doing well, thank you. How about you?
I'm great, and hello to everyone in the audience and anyone who's replaying this sometime later. If you didn't join us live, it's good to have you see the playback. So today we continue our conversation on the psychology of money, and we are reading chapters 14 to 18, or we are discussing chapters 14 to 18. We've already read it. Last week we had a conversation about chapter 6 to 13. We learned a few lessons in there, so we'll continue today. This time we have we have a smaller number of chapters to get through, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So should we go on right ahead into it?
Yes, I would. I think so. We have a lot of
Okay,
things to discuss, very exciting stuff. So I think we should. But I would like to
okay,
give a small overview of how far, like the book, how far we've come, just for people who
okay.
are now joining us, who haven't. This is their first video that they are, let's say, joining us to see. So, The
Yeah,
Psychology of
exactly.
Money is a book that was written by Morgan Housel. So he's a writer for the Wall Street Journal. He has done some things for the Wall Street Journal, and he's very seasoned with talking to people who do investments, and then professionals on the Wall Street as well. So he knows what he's talking about, and he's taking this book from the mentality that you need to be able to maintain your money. Once you get it, get it, and then how to keep it and not just lose it anyhow. So the first time that we did this review, we talked about chapters 1 to 5, where he was telling us that no, you are not what you are doing, everybody is doing some, and you are not weird, quote unquote. So all your actions can be explained by your past and then your experiences. And then he's taking us through how people think and how people manage their monies. And currently we are continuing that psychology and then tuning ourselves so that we could be able to maintain our wealth and grow it stupendously. Yeah, so that's how far we've come.
Stupendously. Wow. Okay, in fact, you know what? If you've encouraged me to just quickly look at the meaning of stupendous. Okay, extremely impressive. All right, extremely wealthy. I could relate to that. Okay, word of the day then. Okay, thank you for that
Yeah.
overview. So, today's conversation, chapters 14 to 18. So let's
Yeah.
get started with chapter 14. Says you change. And the blurb is long-term planning is harder than it seems because people's goals and desires change over time. Ah, people change. Okay, Jenny, what do you think about this chapter?
So it was funny when he made the analogy of a child, like a boy,
Mhm.
who you see when the way kids are so um especially boys are very particular about trains and cars and Batman and those things. So then probably when he was growing up, everybody wanted to be a driver because vroom vroom those things. Yeah, and then so when you ask, let's say a boy, let's say 6 years, 7 years, oh, what do you want to do when you are in future? I want to drive vroom. Then you grow up a little bit and you realize that truck drivers um, do not, let's say, make as much as certain other professions, and so you will change your mind and want that, and then you will change your mind again when, let's say, some circumstances come in. It is fine for you to change your mind. Sometimes people feel like if they are changing their minds, it is bad or something. That there are issues that there, I think you have to go through certain um you have to be able to think introspectively about certain things before you make a drastic change about your life. But then changing your mind about certain things is very common with human life. As we learn new data, process new information, we make certain deductions, and then we change our minds about certain things. So as we are all changing like that, something you may have wanted to do in the last, let's say, 10 years ago may be completely different from what you want your life's trajectory to look like now. And in the next 10 years to come, you may not even fathom what you'll be thinking then. And so because we are changing so much, and even technology is forcing us to change, you shouldn't box yourself into the extreme levels of financial planning. That's what the book says. You shouldn't take one stand, let's say, the extreme stand and say that come rain or high water, come hell or high water, here is where I'm going to build my tents and sit here till thy kingdom come. Be flexible and process new data and then change. And if you're in the middle and you're not in the extreme ends, That means that if you are very malleable, if anything happens, you are able to change fast. Than, for instance, if let's say you are financial planning and you have a lot of wealth, so you're like, oh, me, I'm just cruising, I'm just relaxing in this world for a while, and then you spend a lot of your money. If let's say your work forces you to change by laying you off, technology comes to take over your work, if your health fails and then it forces you to change, you are in such an extreme position that the turnaround time for you to change and then get into the new way will take a longer time than somebody who was in the middle. So if let's say you are doing a chilling kakra, investing kakra, and in those things, if something happens to you, your turnaround time, the time that you can use to react to the new information, is shorter than if you were in an extreme position. So the book recommends that don't take an extreme view of life and then use it to plan your finances, because the world is very fluid. Everything is changing. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, don't take an extreme view. And an example of not taking an extreme view was with the person who, someone who worked for many years to try to get into a certain job. I think to become a doctor, and then he finally got that job. He was like 10 years older than his mates, because
Yeah,
he wasn't the smartest, he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. So he had to
but
work extra hard to get it. And now he's gotten it. And you would think that this person should be so happy with where he is right now. And you're like, you know what? He's not that happy. He's realized that it's not what I thought it would be, and it's normal. Like you said, it's normal. We wish someone would have one mindset and stick to it, but that's the reality of our life. It's okay to change. Because can you imagine what you know? And I say this from a Ghanaian context, right? Because growing up, we thought that, oh, go and become a doctor, go and become a lawyer, you should become an architect. But now I'm looking at people and they are doing jobs that I never imagined. And
YouTube
our education,
influencers. Yeah.
come again,
I said influencers, social media. None of us thought
exactly.
about that when we were growing up.
Who would have
Yeah.
imagined, right?
Yeah.
And no offense to them, but not the people getting A's and B's back in school. But now they have lucrative careers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So our education system used to tell us, do this, stick to, if you want to become a lawyer, do general arts, do go and do political science, and then go and do
Go to
back
law
then we didn't
school.
have, yes, even go and do your a second bachelor's, because back when I was in you going to university, law was only a first degree in KNUST. So in Legon, it was a second degree. It was a second first degree. So you have to go through that path and then become a lawyer, right? But fact is, you make starting to make those decisions in basic school, in grade for the people international. That's grade 7, grade 9. Making those decisions that you are going to do, that's going to determine the rest of your 50, 60 years on earth. Imagine what at all would you know at age 15 to make such decisions? What at all would
The
you know
rest
at
of your
30?
life. Yeah.
Yeah, it does not make sense. So you have to be flexible. And I say this as someone who all my life I'd wanted to become a lawyer. In fact, one of the current justices of the Supreme Court of Ghana was a family friend, Justice Bafu Bondi, when I was growing up. So I had a role model that I was trying to be like. So I did general arts in high school, and I just didn't get into KNUST to do um, law
Law.
as a first degree.
Yeah.
And I felt like, oh my god, the world is coming to an end. But I was made to go and do business administration. I was clueless about it, and here I am. Fast forward, 10 years later, 10 years later, I'm here enjoying a career in finance. So fact is, you can never tell, right? You can never tell. So just allow yourselves to be flexible. I was flexible. I was like, you know what, I'm open to what may come. What I got into a business administration, I was flexible. And it worked out for me, right?
You
And
even met your wife there.
I know, right? So it's you have to be flexible. The point of being flexible is important. I was going to give an example of someone in the book. I did give that example. Another
Yeah.
thing I want to talk about flexibility. Why is it that some people are not flexible? I've given the Ghanaian example. It's just the way things go. You have to toe this line right from start to finish, and truth is, not everyone can toe that line. Not everyone can have a plan right from the start. And a lot of people are walking around confused, not having a lot of motivation in what's work that they have because this is not what I learned in school. This is not what I wanted to do. They forced me to do it. And people are just walking around miserable and they can't be productive. We are losing productive people because of some of these things, right? So that's one of the reasons. Another reason is sunk cost. What do you know about sunk cost, and what do you think about it?
Okay, so sunk cost is cost that you've already invested in something. You've already um, put it in, let's say, a venture, and if you reap the benefits of the venture or not, that money is lost. So you will not be able to get it back again. For instance, let's say you're going to buy a car and you want to do your due diligence well. And so you get a mechanic so that whenever you get a new car, you go and get a mechanic to come and check to see if the tires are fine, if the gear is fine, if everything is fine. That money that you pay the mechanic is sunk costs. Because if you buy the car, you don't buy the car, you are still going to pay that mechanic. So that money is not contingent on the your decision, but then it is gone. Something like that.
Yeah. So whatever you do, is Sikano Ashe. And it gets people boxed into certain mindsets. Now I was having a conversation with a friend recently and I asked, what career do you want? She wants a career in interior design, something artistic, the likes. And she did engineering in KNUST for undergrad, and she wants to go and do a master's in it. And I'm
Oh, okay.
like, but is that what you want to spend your
Doing.
life doing, being an engineer? You've tried it before, you did it for a year. Is that what you really want to be doing? Not quite, but it's there's this nagging feeling that it's a lot has been invested into your
Yeah,
education so
yeah.
far. So at
And she's
least get a
boring.
job. Mhm. Get a job. Let us call you engineer. Make some
Yeah,
money from it. Reap some return on your investment before if you want to branch off. But because of that you may be stuck. You think about the long term, what would you like to do? It doesn't appreciate it. You know what? It's true. It's that inertia. We are stuck in a certain way of thinking, and imagine someone from, let's say, 20 years ago, 20 years, 2002, where cell phones weren't that popular. They had started picking up in Africa. They weren't that popular 20 years ago, determining the kind of technology we'll be having now.
yeah,
Man, you wouldn't be able to imagine. So let's be flexible, like you said. Don't
yeah.
stick to one idea. Okay,
Can I give
let's.
an example? Sorry, I want to give one last example before we move on.
Okay,
Yes. Okay. So there was a friend I had in Wesley Girls. We weren't friends then, but we are friends now. And
hmm
she wanted to do business when she came to Gehe, and then we did a justify your inclusion. So she didn't pass the benchmark that they needed for the business. So she went to do home economics. Now you'd always see she's called Tracy. You'd always see Tracy learning. You'd always see Tracy learning, and then but you see, it was awesome because people don't really learn like that when they do home economics. So everybody was wondering, anyway. So business school, we got there, and then Tracy was also there. She majored in accounting, and she take it from me. She said she had a tough time. She had a tough time with that, but then she passed, graduated, landed a job in KPMG. She used, I think, 4 years to write ACCA, but then she finished and she has started writing CFA. She failed the first one, like she part one, but then she has passed it now, and then she's going on. Like the things will come. Like sometimes obstacles will come, and then you'll be like, oh, because of all of these things, it will keep me where I am, and it will make me more flexible. But then people even worse than you are doing it, so you'll be fine. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. That's I hope I get to meet her one of these days.
She's in
That's a
Canada.
very inspiring.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, it's a very motivating story, and it tells interest may change, obstacles may come in your way, so be flexible, allow yourself the room, be open to explore, and it will work out for you. Okay, let's get to. Oh, and I think just to be clear on the point I was making earlier about sunk cost, right? Don't be too worried about what went into getting you to this point. Think long term. What will work? What will it take? I know it can be painful to forget this, and it happens even for people's relationships. I've been in this relationship for 5 years. You hold
So
on to that, and then 10 years time, it will even be worse because you are still in a bad relationship. And you're still saying, "I've been in this relationship for so long," and it only gets worse and worse and worse. So, strongly encourage you take that bold decision. It's not easy, but you have to. You have to. Okay, nothing is free, man. I enjoyed this chapter. I really enjoyed it, and it says. Everything has a price, but not all prices appear on labels. And Jennifer, today me and you met a client. We do work, investment management for high net worth individuals, and we met a client who has over the years paid the price for
investing.
investing.
Yeah.
His patience, like in just one in a year, the Ghana Stock Exchange did very well in. In 2021. So the equity portion of his portfolio did more than 60%. So beats the Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index. Yeah, but like I gave that caveat. It's I'm not too excited. Wow, 60%. Everyone like, oh my god, my god. People are contacting me on Twitter because they are posting information about Farmel did 300%, Bob did 200 and something percent, and people are but when fan milk was going down, when fan milk
Yes.
was going down,
Humbling.
Charlie,
Yes.
and my friend was just, Elikem, are you sure about this? Elikem, are you sure about this thing? 2018, 2019, 2020, we were holding on to faith.
Substance
Charlie,
of things not seen.
you are you're holding on because the fundamentals of those companies, please, those companies were okay. They were good and there was potential. We were holding on to the faith. But a lot of people who are jumping in when the times are high, they're coming at the wrong time. Who buys when it's high and sells when it's low? So
Mm.
you have to have that patience. You have to have pay that price, right? So yeah, Jenny,
Yeah.
what do you think about this chapter?
So this chapter was really serious, and I also like the things that were said. So he's like, sometimes you are going to buy something. So let's say I go to the mall that I want to buy something, an item. I know that, let's say the price is, let's say, 50 cedis, and I am willing to pay that price, so it's fine. But then sometimes experiences most of the time do not come with price labels, even though there's inherently a price you are paying. So if for instance you want to invest in the stock market, you want to invest and not just put your money in your house where you can look at it in the morning every day, like, oh, this is my life savings. Then
There
you
you
need
are
to,
looking cute and
yes.
shiny.
Yeah, and they're all mine. And that's one, you need to pay a price. You need to pay volatility price. You need to see the prices shoot up and then come down. You need to have that. You have fear because sometimes you'll be like, hey, is this thing coming to come up again at all? Or this is it. There will be that uncertainty. All of those things are there, and you need to pay the price. Everything has a price in this world, and you need to be able to pay the price to enjoy success. The author said something that I really liked. He said, investing, like any other successful venture in this life, comes at a price. So you decide that these are the things that I'll need to forfeit or forgo to be able to enjoy the benefits of this thing that I'm pursuing. So for you to do that, for you to be able to get it, then whatever happens, you need to pay the price. And so you need to ensure that you are willing to pay that fee. And then he also makes a distinction I'll come back to later. You are willing to pay that price and then sit down and go through the experience and then get your reward, which is successful investment. And he also says that sometimes prices could be fees or fines. fees have a good positive connotation, because if I come and Elikem is a fund manager, so I say that, oh Elikem, if you manage my funds for me, how much do you charge? You be like, oh, my fees are, let's say, 2% of the money you bring me. It's okay. But if I go to Elikem and I say that, oh, Elikem, how much will you charge? It's like, oh, I have a fine of 2% if you do this, if you do that. It has a negative connotation. So I want to veer away from a fine, but then a fee I can do with, I'm probably indifferent to it. So we should see the prices that we pay for what we want to achieve in life as fees, because it's what life will collect from you for you to be able to access those things, and not as fines, because fines are punishments. So if we see the price we pay for, let's say, our successes as fees, then it puts us in a positive mental attitude, and then we'll be able to be more, if it is motivation that it will give you to be able to pursue the dreams, then you pursue it further. Yeah, thank you.
Vibe. The putting fees versus fines is a good analogy. And also another look at the fines is, if you don't do what you have to do, if you don't pay the proper price, it will come
Price.
as a fine. It will hit you on the other
Yeah.
side. And I read eh, part of the book that said the bill will come due. The bill will always come due. So you have to pay the price. And what's the price? Patience, frustration. You will see the markets tumbling, prices are going down. You are lose. It looks like on paper you are losing value of your investment, but no, hold on, don't sell. If you can, buy more,
Oh.
right? And I was even
Mm.
telling Jennifer, I was telling you that even at the time when the things were going down, this client could have even made more, but he just, instead of putting more, he was like, "You hold on, right?"
Yeah.
At least he
Yeah.
didn't sell. He didn't get out to
Mm.
crystallize those losses. I know people who
Yeah.
crystallize those losses, right?
Yeah. Losses.
So
Yeah.
I just want to read a certain part of this chapter, if just a few paragraphs, and
Okay.
it makes this price that we are talking about very real. And it reads, like most products, the bigger the returns, the higher the price. Netflix stock returned more than 35,000% from 2002 to 2018, but traded below its previous all-time high of 94% on 94% of days. I'll take that part again. But Netflix traded below its previous all-time high on 94% of
Of.
days. You see, and just to put now, let me just give some commentary to put it in context. 35% over a 16-year period. Then, in fact, if we do the annualized return, that's how much return every year. That's, I can assure you that you're more than doubling. Okay, your money
Yeah.
is more than doubling every year. Okay, I can do the math later, but more than that every year. In fact, I could say more than 10 times every year
Mm-hmm.
for 16 years. That's a lot of investment to do that. But caveat here is, remember, it was trading at lower than the all-time high, the previous
Yeah.
all-time high, 94% of the time. That means you buy and then you thought it was high, then it goes down 94% of the time.
Yes.
It is
Yeah.
below the high that you saw. That takes some courage to stay there, right? But that's not the only
Yes.
example. It says Monster Beverage retained 319% from 1995 to 2018. Granted, this time it's 7 years more than 16, so that is 23 years, but that's still a lot of return. See, we are not talking about 15% a year, we're not talking about 20% a year. If I offer you an investment, I'll give you 30% in CD terms a year, or even in dollar. If I remember, we are talking in dollar terms. So if I
Yeah.
give you an investment that will do 30% in dollar terms a year, you will jump at it. But this is much higher. But
Yeah.
there's always a price, right? And what's the price? It traded below its previous high 95% of the time during that period. So my question is, 95%, would you be willing to keep calm for 95% of the time and just allow the investment to ride out, down, up, 95% of the time, you are not going up, up, up. All right. So the book continues. Now, here is the important part. Like the car, you have a few options. That's if you are going to buy a car, you know you are paying the price. You don't just steal the car. So you can pay the price, accept the volatility. Volatility is when the price goes up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, an upheaval. Or you can find an asset with less uncertainty and a lower payoff, the equivalent of a used car. So you can just play safe, do treasury bills, 91-day treasury bill, 12 point something percent, or 1 year treasury bill, you keep rolling it over 16% a year. Okay, okay. You keep rolling it over. Sometimes to go down to 40%. You can keep playing safe, but you can also try to get and see if you can get the returns without the volatility by doing that treasury bill way. Many people want to get the high returns, but without the volatility.
Yeah.
Hashtag Men's Gold. So they offer you 10% guaranteed return every month, effectively more than 120% a year.
Yeah. More than
Guaranteed more
almost
than
tripling the money.
120. Imagine, imagine, and you jump at it, you are happy. But see what happened in the end. A lot of people got burnt, right? So just to conclude that part, many people in investing choose the third option, like a car thief. Though well-meaning and law-abiding, they form tricks and strategies to get the return without paying the price. They trade in and out. They attempt to sell before the next recession and buy before the next boom. Most investors with even a little experience know that volatility is real and common. Many then take what seems like the next logical step, trying to avoid it. So, people, investments, there's no free lunch. You can play safe, do treasurable, close your mind and know that your money will be there, is guaranteed, and you get some small returns. Don't worry that don't expect it to make you rich. Keep doing your day job, okay? Keep doing your
Yeah.
day job. That's what will get you rich. But if you want your investments to be what will make you rich, you have to be ready to have a pick a good strategy, but ready to go up and down, up and down. Don't sell. When it goes down, you buy more because it's cheap, right? And that's the way to go. You can't you people try, they try to time the market and they get out. And last week we gave the example with those numbers. Some people missed out a lot because they got out at the wrong time. Remember, Netflix did 35,000 in 16 years. Monster did 319,000% in 23 years. But 95% of the time it was just so. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we've beaten the point on this. There's no free lunch. There's no free lunch. So we can jump to the next chapter. You
Okay.
and me. And the blurb reads: before taking financial cues from people playing a different, eh, beware taking financial cues from people playing a different game than you are. Oh my. Oh my. Jenny, I'll let you go ahead. Go first on this point.
So the people have different objectives for investing. I may be my primary objective for investing may be to hold the securities I buy till I retire, which is some 30 plus years to come. Somebody's primary objective is to probably hold it for 5 years, and somebody's objective is to buy it in the morning and sell it in the evening. So we are very different with our investment strategies, and that's how human life is. We do things according to our objectives. Now, I don't sit here and say that, oh, somebody I know is always flipping stocks, so I'm going to follow his strategy and just be buying and doing anything he does without knowing the context in which he is playing, and if it's applicable to the context in which I want to play. So, for example, if you want to buy a stock and you are planning to hold it for, let's say, 20 years, so you think that, oh, buying it at this price is good, and you are following a day trader who is somebody who just let's say buys securities and then flip things around where he thinks that he can get a quick return in, let's say, 1 day trading or probably 2 days trading. And then I follow him, and he bought it at, let's say, 10 CDs in the morning, and in the evening it's around 60 CDs, and he wants to sell it then. But then because I saw that, oh, this man bought it in the morning, then that means it's a good stock, so let me also buy it. But 10 to 60 is quite a big boom for him in just one day. But you buy it at 60, and before you realize, the market is correcting itself, and then boom, we are back to 10. If you didn't have the long term, if you had a long term game in mind, number one, but then you are just following somebody's day trading behavior, then it could cause you to lose a lot of money in, let's say, the interim, short term, that you may be so surprised about. Don't follow people subject blindly follow people without knowing if the things that they are doing will be applicable in your situation. And another example I want to give is, let's say, when you just sit in Ghana and then you try to um do everything that, let's say, your friend abroad is doing. Sometimes it works in his or her situation abroad. Her environment is helping the thing that he or she is doing to survive. But then you don't adjust anything to suit you in the Ghanaian context when you are trying to imitate. You are just bringing it like that, a hook, line, and sinker. Probably it may not work. It may work, but then there's also the a possibility that it may not work in every, because you are taking it out of the context that you are working in. So the book is advising that whenever we are doing something, we are very different people. The people may be doing things because of certain situations which may be different from yours. So contextualize everything so that you will see if it works for you in your situation. Thank you.
Yep, contextualize it. Make sure it's working for you in your situation. Right. And for me, it's on this thing, you and me, people having different motives. There are a few scenarios. There's the my hardcore work when I'm analyzing, choosing which stocks to buy for people. There are certain things that people say, like, and but let me not get too technical just yet. First thing that I think anyone can take a cue from is the news. The news is selling hype. The news is telling you about Fun Milk did 300% in 1 year. Oh my God. When Fun Milk lost
Falling,
90%,
falling from
maybe,
17.
yeah, from 17 to 1.7,
Yeah. Mhm.
90% gone, right? Maybe they didn't come and tell you that. In fact, if it had happened in 1 month, maybe they would have announced it. But it happened so gradually, took its time. But the news is selling. It's there's this term. Is it catchy? They want to grab eyeballs. That's what they are selling. So you need to
Yeah.
take it with a pinch of salt. And sometimes it's the same story, but people tell it in a certain way, amplifying certain parts. So you need to ask yourself: this person telling you this, what's the person trying to tell you? And sometimes people, especially in the aftermath of the performance of the Ghana Stock Exchange, people were hitting me up on Twitter, and I would give them, and I'll slow them down and say, "Do you understand what you are doing? If you understand, fine, go ahead. But if you don't understand, let's have a bit more discussion about it." But people, Charlie, like Charlie, time they go, time is going, time is money. Let's hurry up and do the trade. All right, over to you. Go and do the trade. If it works out for you, great. If it doesn't, but you need to understand. And people will say a good investment advisor will tell you, calm down, let's understand. You don't necessarily have to take the decision now. There's no need to rush. Sleep on it. So these are some of the things that people need to do to avoid being caught up. And when you understand that the news is just trying to sell hype, then you calm down when they say certain things. One of the things that, as an investment professional, I should be listening to, I listen to the news, financial news every morning, and I don't pay attention to the stock market news because today they are saying that the stock market, the S&P index, that's a way of checking, like, on average, what have the top companies performed in 1 day? It jumped up 5%. Tomorrow, it jumped down. It went down 3%. Every day, up, down, up, down, up, down. Every day, you just be panicking. Every day, you just be panicking. But guess what? At the end of
Yeah.
the day, the value is the same. So why
Yeah.
should I stress myself every day, be panicking? and listening to someone who's trying to sell news. That brings me to the next group of people. When you hear certain big institutions, the big banks, they issue a report, not to name call, but Goldman Sachs or Bank of America analysis, they says that some short sellers are doing this, they are doing that. See, when they understand this about investments, when prices are going down, it's because people are buying and selling. As someone is selling, someone is buying. It's not over until the fat lady sings. Someone's loss is someone's gain. So ask, is someone gaining at your loss? Some people may be telling you one story, and it happened with the 2008 financial crisis. If you heard about it in the US, stock markets crashed, there was a credit crunch, eh, things were bad, a lot of value was lost. People were going down and people were buying. When COVID happened, March 2020, stock markets they tanked, prices tanked, they fell. I spoke to someone in the UK who was going to buy a house, and I was trying to help her find a good one in Ghana to buy an apartment. And she's like, she has to put things on hold. You could hear her
Yeah.
from someone who was so optimistic till now. Her husband checked the value of their bond and stuff, and it's lost so much value. She was breaking down. If she panicked, I haven't spoken to her since, but if she panicked and sold, wrong time, because guess what? June rebound, new records were being set. By December, look, Elon Musk is his value, the value of his wealth was ballooning. Jeff Bezos, Zuckerberg, all those people, their values were ballooning. Are you the one who sold when things were going down, or you are the one who bought when things were going down? You have to ask yourself, because someone is selling a story. They need someone to take the opposite side of the trade.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
they telling you sell, sell, sell while they buy? It happened in the 2008 crisis where banks were taking insurance policies against the positions that they were saying. They were telling their customers buy this, but they were doing the opposite. You need to ask yourself, are you playing the same game as the other person? Calm down. Know what is your game. Know your long term horizon. Find someone who is a seasoned professional who is also thinking long term. And then that's someone that you can look at, you know. So that's what you need to look at out for. Sometimes it's hard to know what people's motives are, but think through it, then find their motives, so that you don't get caught being the last person with
Holding
sand
it.
in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the gold would suddenly turn into sand in your hand. So yeah, and just a last thing to mention, this is how bubbles are formed. There's this term we use in finance, momentum. Everybody's buying FANUC, everybody's doing this, everybody's buying empty, everybody's doing this, everybody. You are coming, it's too late. It's too late. By the time there is news where it's too late.
Beautiful.
This the season people are
Yes.
selling to
Those
you.
that would have profited. Yes.
You understand? You understand. So it happens. It happens. Be careful. All right. All right. Let's move on. So we have two more chapters to discuss,
Yeah.
17, 18. So 17, wow, nice word. The seduction of pessimism. Ooh. And it's a nice way to follow the chapter we are just talking about.
Yeah.
Optimism sounds like a sales pitch. Pessimism sounds like sorry, it's being covered. Pessimism sounds like someone trying to help you. Someone is telling you, be careful, be careful. Okay, then this person, I should probably listen to the person, right? In this book, the book uses a few analogies, just by way of introducing this part. It says when we go back to evolutionary way of thinking, back to the caveman mentality, when we're in the cave, prey and predator, Charlie. If you hear
Subsistence
danger,
and those things. Yeah. Hunting
stand.
and
If you're in the
gathering.
bush,
Sorry. Yeah.
if you are in the bush and you hear some chukri 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 going on, you better run because maybe some tiger is coming to devour you. So our instincts are towards pessimism. If there's danger, you want to be careful. And in terms of money, you work hard for your money. If someone is telling you that, Charlie, DG, else you may lose your money here, you want to hurry up and go and take your money and go. All right. But someone is being optimistic, hope that this person he doesn't
Naive.
know that life is hard. Yeah, thank you for the word naivete. The person is naive. But this book gives examples of how things really overall. you think about it, you look in the long run of things, things have actually turned out much better. People tell you
Yeah.
about the good old days, but let's be honest. I've been working from home for almost 2 years, and I'm not blowing money on fuel. I'm not contributing to climate change. You tell me if it's working hasn't helped, you know. But yeah, what do you think about this chapter?
So I think in life we always say that if you are too forward looking or optimistic, then you haven't experienced life. You are sheltered,
Mhm.
quote unquote. Uh-huh. But then
Your
if
head
you
is in
are,
the clouds.
yes, if you are a pessimist, it's almost as if, oh, I'm a realist. I've seen what life can do, and so I have the most truthful view of the world. But as Elikem, you said, the things, even though there are setbacks, we are not saying that everything is going to be rosy forever. No, there are going to be setbacks. But then in the long run, most of the time, the positive news prevail. So, for instance, the stock market that you were talking about, if you take I think last week we were talking about the Russell 300 or so, 3,000, sorry. If you take the 1995 till now, it's been a positive return. But then if you take the breakdown to see the middle behavior, it's not easy. So in the long run, things work out for people. And I think if you are a Christian, there's this Bible verse that can buttresses my point, which says everything works together for the good of those who love the Lord. Yeah. So I think because we are all God's children, at the end of the day, in the long run, things will turns out for our good. So we shouldn't be always pessimistic that, oh, in a media things don't work out for me and this and that. So I am having a negative view on life, and I'm just no. It's not even good for your mental health, you see. And nowadays we are all very serious about our mental health. So have a dose of reality that setbacks are there, failures are there, but then have the optimism in your abilities, that your abilities plus the lack in this world will get you to where you want to get to when you apply yourself. Thank you.
Exactly. Have some faith in your abilities and grind hard, work hard, and make these things happen. And granted, some of these things are beyond your control, right? So this is where I like a part of the book that I just want to kind of paraphrase. So if you are familiar with the world history and the world wars, you know that World War II, Japan and Germany are were the losers, ended with Hiroshima. The bomb dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? And so it says take Japan in the late 1940s. The nation was gutted by defeat from World War II in every way, economically, industrially,
Yes.
culturally, socially. A brutal winter in 1946 caused a famine that limited food to less than 800 calories per person per day. Yeah, I don't know about calories, but Jennifer, can you put that in context? Like how much food? Like just one half bowl of banku.
Half ball, because I think one ball of banku is like 1,500 calories.
Wow, look at that. Before you add the okra soup and things or the
Bam.
pepper. So that's serious farming. That's how things were back in the day. Now imagine if an academic had written in a newspaper article at that time that, hey, Japanese people, chin up. Within our lifetime, before we die, our economy will grow to almost 15 times the size it was before the end of the war. Our expectancy will nearly double. Our stock market will produce returns like any country in history rarely ever has seen. We will go more than 40 years without seeing unemployment top 6%. Hey, Ghana. We will we will go more than 40 years without seeing unemployment top 6%. We'll become a world leader in electronic innovation and corporate managerial systems. Before long, we will be so rich that we will the most prized real estate in the United States. In somebody else's country, the people who just defeated us will go and own property real estate in their country. Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, and Americans, by the way, will become our closest allies and will try to copy our economic insight. The people who just destroyed us, they will become our closest friends and they
Yeah.
will come to us and learn from us.
Yeah.
They will institutionalize you. You'll be taken to hospital. You'll be taken to the psychiatric ward. There's something wrong with your head if you come and tell the Japanese people in the 1940s that you'll be a you'll be some false prophet. But
Yeah.
guess what? It happened.
It did.
This is what happened, right? And it's not just, it didn't happen by wishing, of course. And you remember last week we met a client, high net worth individual, and he said something that he knows it's not easy to get these things done, but it's that we are not even trying. That's a story for another day, but it's not easy. But be a little optimistic, have faith that look, let's try, let's make it happen and make it happen. I hope I'm not
Yeah.
sounding like some motivational speaker right now, but I'm
You
really
are. Oh, but it's good. No, I even want to top up to the Japan story. I am motivated, so it's working.
please continue.
So the Japan story. Do you remember when we were reading the book Lee Kuan Yew wrote?
Mhm.
When he was talking about other countries. So backstory. We read a book called From First World Singapore.
From
The story of
third
Singapore
world to first.
from third world to first world. So Lee Kuan Yew was the prime minister for Singapore from I think 1960 to 1995. So when during his reign as prime minister, he was telling us about Singapore and other countries that he visited. He even spoke about Ghana and Nigeria. They weren't good things, but yeah, we won't get into that. So when he was talking about Japan, he was like, and I'm saying it's like Elikem does now, Japan. I didn't hear you say it then like that. Okay, sorry. So when he was talking about Japan, he said that when he visited Japan first, they had just ended the World War II, and the country was just torn. Every like the roads were so small. So if and then they had like prehistoric buildings that had been torn apart. So rebuilding, they had to tear down all of those things and rebuild the country. Now, if you know a little bit about geography, you know that Japan is they have all the hurricanes in this world. Like they are today, it is this, tomorrow it is that. Like they are always fighting something. If it's not a disease, if it's not a plague, it is nature. If it's not nature, it is something else they're trying to rebuild. So they had it very seriously, and then they rebuilt it. And this is not so long ago. No, they rebuilt Japan from the trenches, the bottom of the trenches, and then now they are world giants. So as we keep saying, setbacks will happen, yes, but then you should have optimism in your ability. And if you so Lee Kuan Yew spoke a little about Japanese, and then he was like, when you see them now, you see them. They when they are going anywhere, they go with everybody around them. They go with the hospital. So if it's, let's say, a manufacturing industry or a company, they go with the hospital, supermarkets, anything, all the things that they will need to function as a community, they go with that. So you see, we are all progressing, and then we go up in life. So it's no surprise that they've been able to rise as far as they have. So you just need to believe in your ability and put in the work. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Believe in your ability. And fact is, things generally get better. Yes, we are having COVID, one of the worst pandemics ever. But fact is, our medicine has gotten much better. I think
Yeah. Now even
the
Egypt is
the
doing vaccines. Did they ever think that? No.
like when you look, I think I don't. The numbers are not coming to me, but I think this is the fastest, of course. Granted, this is the fastest turnaround time for a vaccine to be circulated and be used, right? And
Yeah.
I think the next best was the polio vaccine. I think that took 9 or 10 years to develop. Can you the number
Nine to
of
10
people that
years.
died and
Yeah.
suffered during that time?
Mhm.
Relax. The world is not is things are getting better. Things are getting better. It's not just wishful thinking. Like the way we broke down the Japan example, like there is reason to think that things are better. But optimism just sounds like a sales pitch, and pessimism just makes us feel like, you know what, let me
So
be
we are
cautious.
realistic.
If you
Yeah.
someone looks smarter, But yeah. Okay, great. Now, to take our final chapter, you believe anything. When you believe anything. And the blurb says, appealing fictions and why stories are more powerful than statistics. If I come to you and I tell you some numbers, the probability of this to be like this, and then when this thing correlates with that and blah 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 statistics versus a story that you have been through, no numbers can change it, right? And I have
Mm.
examples of when I'm telling people about investing, and they talk about how they invested money with certain financial institutions and they lost their money or they had to struggle before they got their money. I pause. I can't hit them with too many numbers because the numbers will fall on deaf ears. The numbers don't trump their lived experiences. They lost the money. You can tell them that only 1% of people didn't recover and the government paid everybody. Guess what? They may be that 1% who didn't get their money and they lost relationships, they were in debt, they lost their job, their whole world came crashing down.
Yeah.
Your story, your numbers doesn't beat their story. But as usual, the book gives us something to look forward to. But anyway, what do you think about this chapter as you're reading it?
Okay. So I want to give an example. When I
Mhm.
was in, I think, class 6 or JHS 1, I found it very, my maths teacher had a way of teaching, and I found it very difficult to follow him at first. So if he has any, let's say, algebra, he will talk abstractly about algebra for a very long time before he puts a chalk to, we had a chalkboard. He puts chalk to the blackboard and then try to recap what he said again with like it going on like that. And I found it very hard to picture the numbers in my head as he was talking. But then as he was sort of going as a story or an example, I was able to follow it better. I think that's how human beings usually behave. Like if you just come at me throwing numbers here and there, this statistic says this, blah blah blah. Most of I'll just be looking at your face and just be
We're
looking at
long,
you
book
until you
long.
finish and go. But tell me, somebody in your situation did this, put this measure in place. The person went through this and then did this. Like I'm able to follow that better and let it sort of empathize with the person's identify with whatever the other person went through and see if okay, so that resonates better with me than giving me raw figures. Yeah. So stories are that's how stories are the best way to sell something to somebody than figures. And if you look at marketing, the best ads or the best adverts, they are stories that resonate with their target audience and then their way of life. And the author says that because of this, we believe a lot of we consume a lot of fiction. Like we like fiction, and I'm one of the people, I like reading, so I consume a lot of fiction. And appeals to us because that's what we can identify with. And another thing is that everybody wants to seem in control of their life. Elikem, if you come and ask me, oh Jennifer, how is everything? Oh, I am fine. But come to my house, I don't have water. My electricity goes off at will. I am there are a lot of things. But then I want to seem like, oh, I have everything under control. And so I sort of give myself a narrative in my head that will meet the fiction that I want everybody to believe and for myself to believe. And this is how everybody is. Like sometimes we don't have, and the author gave an example. Sorry to just going off a tangent. The author gave an example that let's say if you have a 5-year old in your house, the person knows that you get up in the morning, you go to work, you go somewhere, you come back. If she wants to eat, she gets to eat. If he asks you where are you, I'll be like, oh, I went to work. The person doesn't really understand it, but then fine, you are going, I'm fine. The person has a view of the world. It may not be the full view, but then it serves his or her purpose. That's how it is for me too. I don't know everything in this world, but what I have, the knowledge that I have filled in other blanks to form the narrative that I have about my life. And that's how somebody who's 80 years old, 60 years old, whatever, we are all doing. And because of that, people are able to sell you stories more than, like, they're able to get to you with stories. And so I think for you to be able to guard yourself against the appealing fiction and filling gaps in narratives that will suit your needs, you should be able to have a clear understanding of the narrative that you are using to fill up certain parts in your life, so that you make yourself seem that, oh, I have everything in control, and not to let anybody just be coming in to give you some fiction or fictitious things that will set you away or apart from the goal that you set for yourself to achieve when it comes to finances. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Be ye not deceived by stories, right? Don't let someone use some nice, sweet story to whisper into your ear, and then you need to probe. Try and some of these things are hard numbers. Try and get where the information is coming from, the validity of the information. Try to understand what's
Yeah.
going on in there. You know, and speaking of stories and how stories help form our mindsets, I just want to read a part, and it says, Daniel Kahneman, an academic in the field of behavioral finance, he writes, hindsight, the ability to explain the past, gives us the illusion that the world is understandable. It gives us the illusion that the world makes sense, even when it doesn't make sense. That's a big deal in producing mistakes in many fields. And because we are so used to coming up with reasons for stuff, coming up with stories for why things happened, we start easily framing things. Oh, this is why this didn't happen. This is why this didn't happen. And I guess this way a benefit of religion. You know what? When we can't wrap our head around it, we call it a miracle, or we say, what, it's God who did it for us. So, we have an answer. Everything we have an answer, right? So we tend to think that we tend to overestimate our ability to handle
Yes.
certain things,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know, and make us overthink things. But we don't think about it in the right way. So I'd encourage everyone, as we hear these things, what's the lesson? What's the takeaway? In as much as stories help us to make sense of things, we really need to find out if it's true. If our lived experience is the exception to the rule, what is the norm? You know, don't just stick to stories. Don't be easily convinced by stories, but actually find a way to get the substance out of things, so that you can make sense and make better decisions. So yeah, that's the main takeaway I have from this chapter. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's Jenny. Is there more you want to add on this chapter, or we can start? In fact, it's almost 8, so we can start wrapping up
Wrapping up.
on
Yeah.
this. Okay,
Yeah.
then to do the wrap up, just an overview of some of the lessons that we picked up in reading these chapters. So a main thing for chapter 14, remember, we change our minds as we age. So avoid making extreme decisions when planning. Give yourself that flexibility, right? In chapter 15, we um, we talked about how successful investing comes at a price. And what's that price you have to bear? Volatility, fear, doubt, uncertainty, and regret. Jenny, let me leave you to also do the summary of the other chapters.
Okay, so in chapter 16, we learned that different investors have different goals. So you don't follow someone blindly without knowing if the person's goals and your goals are aligned. And then in chapter 17, we learned that pessimism is more rampant because progress happens too slowly to be noticed, but setbacks happen too quickly to be ignored. Keep calm. Everything will be all right. Chapter 18, we learned that everyone wants to feel like they are in control of their life. Thus, we cling to stories that predict outcomes that support that narrative. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for giving us as a roundup of what we discussed today. So next week, so this was the third session we had on this book, The Psychology of Money. Next week, we are closing discussions on this book, and I'll announce the next book that we'll be reading for March. So next week we will be discussing same time Monday 7 p.m. here on Facebook Live, and you don't need a Facebook account to be able to watch it. We will be discussing chapters 19 to 20 and the postscript. So yeah, yeah. So those are the chapters that we'll be discussing. And in there, the author talks about, okay, I've gathered all this information about psychology of money. How am I also applying it? I like that about the book. And one of the chapters also talks about consumer behavior in the US. So I am looking forward to having that discussion, especially because, some chapters ago, we talked about how um, your wealth really is a function of your income and your expenditure. Your expenditure is very important. So we need to understand the mindset of consumerism so that we spend less, right? So looking forward to next week's chapter. All right, then. I also like to invite you to our clubhouse sessions on Thursdays. This Thursday, we are looking at some finance principles, like you hear terms like inflation, cities depreciation. How do these terms actually affect you? So we are having a conversation about these terms so that when you hear it, someone is using it, you know whether the person is giving you include, the person is lying to you, and what is the implication of it on you? Why is it important? Why should you care? And what can you do about it? So thank you so much for tuning into for today's session. I look forward to catching you here same time next week on Facebook Live, and we'll be testing out YouTube for the next month, March. So stay tuned for that. And all these, you can access them from any platform. All right, Jennifer, any closing words for us?
So I just want to say that we are gradually coming to the end of this book review. So we'll just be. I hope that we are taking all the lessons that we are, as we discuss. If it applies to you, you just pin it somewhere at the back of your mind and then make use of it later. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay, then. Goodbye, and I wish you a good week.
You too. Bye. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our thoughts. I hope you learned a thing or two and start practicing. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook. And subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. Do tell a friend about Money Convos so we all become wealthy together. Talk to you soon. Bye.